There was one cargo aircraft that seemed almost larger than aviation itself. A machine so massive, so powerful, and so unique that even today, many aviation experts still consider it one of the greatest heavy-lift aircraft ever built. That aircraft was the Antonov An-124 Ruslan. For years, the An-124 became a symbol of extraordinary air cargo capability. It transported giant industrial equipment, military hardware, oversized machinery, helicopters, turbines, humanitarian aid supplies, and cargo that many other aircraft simply could not carry. But after years of uncertainty, production shutdowns, geopolitical tensions, and questions about its future, something unexpected is happening. Russia is once again discussing the future of the An-124, and that has triggered major conversations across the global aerospace industry. Because if the An-124 truly returns in a modernized form, it could become one of the most important heavy airlift developments the aviation world has seen in years. But before understanding why this story matters, we first need to understand why the An-124 became so important in the first place. When the aircraft first entered service during the Soviet era, it immediately stood out as one of the largest cargo aircraft ever created. At the time, moving oversized cargo across continents remained extremely difficult. Sea transport was often slow. Ground transportation faced infrastructure limitations. Many military and industrial operations required something much faster. The An-124 was designed specifically to solve that problem. With its enormous cargo hold, front-loading nose design, rear cargo ramp, powerful engines, and exceptional lifting capacity, the aircraft could transport loads that were impossible for most cargo fleets. Its capabilities quickly attracted attention worldwide. Even after the Soviet Union collapsed, the aircraft remained highly valuable because there were very few alternatives capable of handling similar missions. For years, operators used the An-124 for specialized global transport missions involving massive generators, energy equipment, aerospace components, emergency relief cargo, and military logistics. And that is exactly why the aircraft never completely disappeared from global aviation discussions. Because even in today's aviation industry, truly heavy strategic airlift capability remains extremely rare. Most commercial cargo aircraft focus on containerized freight, parcel transportation, or standard cargo operations. The An-124 belongs to an entirely different category. It was designed to move things that do not normally fit inside airplanes. And that capability remains valuable today. However, the aircraft's future became increasingly uncertain over the last decade. One major reason involved the complicated industrial history behind the program. The An-124 was originally developed through Soviet aerospace structures that later became divided across different countries after the Soviet Union's collapse. Over time, political tensions, industrial separations, supply chain challenges, and certification complications created major obstacles for large-scale future development. As a result, discussions about restarting production or creating modernized variants became increasingly difficult. Many analysts eventually assumed the aircraft's production story was effectively over. But recent developments changed that conversation. Russia began exploring options to modernize existing An-124 aircraft and strengthen domestic heavy transport aviation capabilities. Reports and industry discussions increasingly focused on upgrading systems, extending operational life, improving maintenance support, and reducing dependence on foreign aerospace components. This shift became particularly important after global geopolitical tensions reshaped aviation supply chains. Suddenly, aerospace independence became a much larger priority. Countries around the world started realizing that depending heavily on international industrial networks could create vulnerabilities during periods of political instability. Russia faced this challenge directly, and that is one reason why large domestic aviation programs started receiving renewed attention. The An-124 became part of that broader strategy. Now, it is important to understand that discussions about the An-124 coming back do not necessarily mean massive immediate production lines suddenly returning overnight. Building large transport aircraft is extraordinarily difficult. Modern aviation manufacturing requires advanced engines, avionics, structural systems, supply chains, certification processes, skilled labor, and enormous industrial investment. Recreating all of that takes years. However, what makes the An-124 story significant is that Russia continues viewing heavy airlift capability as strategically important enough to invest resources into maintaining and potentially expanding. And from a military and industrial perspective, that makes sense. Heavy transport aircraft perform missions that smaller cargo aircraft simply cannot handle. Large military vehicles, oversized industrial equipment, emergency disaster relief cargo, energy infrastructure components, space industry hardware. All of these often require specialized transport capability. And globally, there are surprisingly few aircraft capable of performing such missions efficiently. The An-124's closest comparison often involves the legendary Lockheed C-5 Galaxy, operated by the United States. Both aircraft belong to a category of strategic airlifters, designed to move extremely heavy and oversized loads over long distances. But unlike military-exclusive platforms, versions of the An-124 also developed a strong reputation within commercial heavy cargo operations. This made the aircraft particularly unique. Even today, many logistics specialists consider heavy-lift aviation one of the most difficult sectors to replace, because when oversized cargo needs rapid transport, there are often very limited options available. Another factor driving renewed interest in the An-124 involves changing global logistics realities. Large infrastructure projects continue expanding. Energy sectors require transportation of oversized equipment. Humanitarian operations increasingly depend on rapid deployment capability. Military logistics remain critical in multiple regions. All of these areas value heavy airlift assets. This creates ongoing demand for aircraft capable of transporting extraordinary loads. At the same time, aviation technology itself continues evolving. Modern avionics systems, navigation technologies, digital flight management systems, improved materials, and updated maintenance methods could potentially allow older aircraft platforms to remain operationally relevant much longer than previously expected. This is why modernization programs have become increasingly common across aviation. Instead of designing completely new aircraft from scratch, operators sometimes upgrade proven platforms with newer technologies. The An-124 fits naturally into that discussion. Its basic airframe still offers exceptional cargo capability. The question becomes how effectively modernization efforts can keep the aircraft competitive and sustainable in future operations. Engines represent another major part of the story. Modern aircraft performance increasingly depends on engine efficiency, reliability, emission standards, and maintenance economics. Any serious long-term future for the An-124 would likely require substantial focus on propulsion systems and support infrastructure. And this remains one of the most challenging aspects of modern aerospace development, because aircraft engines are among the most complex machines ever built. This is also why many analysts remain cautious when discussing future heavy transport aircraft programs. Building the airplane itself is only part of the challenge. Maintaining long-term operational support, certification, spare parts networks, and industrial sustainability often proves even harder. Still, despite these obstacles, the fact that the An-124 continues generating international attention reveals something important. The aircraft still fills a capability gap that has never been fully replaced. Many modern commercial cargo aircraft focus on efficiency and standardized freight transport. The An-124 focuses on extreme cargo capability. And those are very different missions. In many ways, the renewed discussions surrounding the aircraft reflect a broader trend happening throughout global aviation today. Countries are increasingly investing in strategic aerospace capabilities rather than relying entirely on international systems. Industrial resilience, domestic manufacturing, supply chain control, technological independence. These concepts are becoming increasingly important across aerospace planning. The An-124 therefore represents more than simply a cargo aircraft. It represents a strategic capability, a symbol of industrial aviation strength, a platform that still performs missions few others can accomplish. And that is why the possibility of its return continues attracting attention. Because while the aviation world often focuses on futuristic passenger jets, advanced fighter aircraft, and next-generation engines, some of the most important aerospace stories involve capabilities that remain essential even decades after they were first created. The An-124 is one of those rare aircraft, a machine built for missions so demanding that the world still struggles to replace it. And if Russia successfully extends, modernizes, or expands the future of the An-124 program, it may prove that some aviation legends never truly disappear. They simply wait for the right moment to become important again. And perhaps that is exactly why the aviation industry never stopped watching the An-124.